uh, as a bit of a background, we requested this meeting so that we could discuss the recent find of box tree moth in Prince Edward Island, and there are representatives here from CFIA who would like to share what the process is and to hear from what the process is now that that detection has been confirmed, and to hear from any industry members if there are questions or concerns about what happens next. Um, so maybe the best way to start is to maybe do a roundtable of introductions so everybody knows who's on the meeting. Um, so I already introduced myself, but I'll go around the screen and maybe we'll start at the top with Jan. I'm sure everybody knows Jan, but
Hi,
go ahead.
everyone. I am the Executive Director of Landscape Nova Scotia and the Interim Executive Director for New Brunswick, PEI, and Newfoundland.
All right, thanks. Holly, would you want to go next?
Sorry, I mute myself. Yes, I'm Holly Armstrong. I'm with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. I'm a horticulture specialist, or actually current acting program leader with the horticulture section.
Great, thank you. And Javier?
Hi there, everyone. My name is Javier Maldonado. I am the acting national manager for the horticulture section. I do want to mention that our senior director was intending on attending, but he's not able to attend at the last minute. So my apologies for his for being called away. Holly and Julie LaPlante work for me, and so that's Julie. Introduce yourself.
Hello, Julie LaPlante. I'm a program specialist in the horticulture section. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks. Dan?
Yeah, I'm president of Landscape New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island. Yeah.
All right, Stuart?
Hi, I am a board member of Landscape New Brunswick and PEI and the growers chair for the CNLA.
Great, thank you. Mary, I know you've introduced you, but let's do it once more.
Sure. Mary Myers. I'm a manager with the Provincial Tree Nursery.
And Robin.
Hi, I'm Robin Godfrey. I'm chair of Garden Centers Canada for the CNLA.
Great, thank you. And Kurt.
Yeah, Kurt Laird with Laird Tree Care. I'm from Prince Edward Island as well.
Great, thank you. Okay, maybe Javier, do you mind if I turn it over to you to give a summary of what's been going on and where CFIA will be heading with this file?
Yeah, for sure. And so first of all, I guess thanks to everyone for this last or the short notice call, and thank you, Jamie, for arranging it. We thought it would be good to talk about the recent detection of box tree moth in PEI, to go over what we have in terms of information for now, and talk about our next steps in that process, as well as give you an opportunity to ask questions, raise concerns, that kind of thing. So very much appreciate your time on this. So in short, I guess the quick summary is that we did have a report of box tree moth in the Charlottetown area of PEI through the iNaturalist system. So that's not our system, that's a sort of a public one. And as a result of that report, CFIA increased the number of increased our surveillance in that area. And we did get a report from a resident in Charlottetown, I think in the Sherwood area, that they had noticed their hedge was not doing too well. And so CFI inspectors did go out and take some samples of larvae, and they were confirmed as positive for box tree moth on August 30th. The inspectors at the time did look at the hedge, and I think I've asked Julie to have a picture handy so that you can see what they saw, and it was not a pretty sight for the boxwood. They also did a look around the area and found other signs and symptoms of box tree moth in that neighborhood. And sorry, that neighborhood was in the Stratford area. Sorry, so still part of Charlottetown, but in just not too far from where the initial iNaturalist report was. Holly's let me know that I'm a bit quiet, so please, I don't know if I need to repeat anything. Could you hear me? Yeah, okay, all good. If I need to repeat anything, just let me know. But so I guess that's where we are in terms of the detections. We know that it's a residential property. We know that box tree moth is one of those pests that are hard to get rid of once it's considered established. And in this case, this would be the second cycle in the pest biology, and meaning that that we would consider it established in that area. So that's where we are. Our next step is to look at what we need to do in terms of the current regulated area, and look to expand that to include the province of PEI. But before we do that, we need to finish the survey. So the end of the survey is scheduled for sometime at the end of September, I think it is, or I don't have the date handy with me. But we would wait for that process to happen. We have asked for additional surveillance within that area from our operations staff, and see what else we can find in that area to further support the signs and symptoms that have already been observed. And I think that's where we are. And I'll just stop here to see if you have any questions. And actually, maybe I'll just pause to see if Holly or Julie want to add anything. I think I may have covered it all.
No, but I can share those photos. I can share the photos.
Yeah, I mean, if you could, that would be great.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it in Stratford or is it in Sherwood or both?
The Sherwood was a report from the public. The Stratford is the detection.
Thank you.
I think Julie was going to share a picture. It's a little bit different.
I'm trying. It's a little different than Teams. So just a second.
In the meantime, I don't know, are there other questions?
I did put some in the chat from somebody that couldn't attend. If you're able to answer those, she's in PEI, the person that asked them.
Looks like Marie is asking for control procedures for box tree moth, and we do have all that information, which I can share with you, Jan, to distribute if you'd like. Yeah, BTK is the pesticide of choice, I guess, or the biocontrol of choice for box tree moth at the moment. And it is effective as long as you're spraying it on the plants when the larvae are feeding. So it does need to be sprayed at least twice a year, because there are two life cycles of box tree moth. and spraying at the point where those pictures are is too late. So anyway, that's like I said, I can give you more information, and there are some pesticide products that are, there is one for sure that's registered for homeowner use as well. So I'll get that information out to everybody.
Thank you.
I think the unfortunate piece is that we've tried, or through other through the experience in Ontario, to try and eradicate, or at least not CFIA necessarily, but industry, and also in combination with the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture and Food, and at the time Rural Affairs. And it was found to be quite difficult and not successful in the end. So it's the control measures are one way to try and reduce the impacts locally, but it's not going to lead to elimination of the moth in the area. So.
Yeah, it's a pest that'll need continuous management if it is in your area. Do you want to get into some details on what is involved in expanding the regulated area, Javier or Holly?
Yep, I can do that. We do need to ensure that we are demonstrating our. Oops, sorry, did I? Is there a question? Sorry.
It just sounds like some feedback.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do need to demonstrate that we are having the area under control, I suppose. And so we need to wait for our survey to be completed. That's our step one. Once that survey is completed, we would view that information. At this point, it supports expanding the regulated area to include Prince Edward Island. I think in last year, and Julie can fill in the blanks here, but it was within a nursery that it was detected. This time it was in a residence, so it is it would be considered established in that area by this point. So we would provide a recommendation to our minister to expand the regulated area. In terms of timelines, it's hard for me to provide a good timeline for you, because it does take time to provide that recommendation, and the minister does need to consider the information that's provided. They will ask, who did we consult? And so this is an opportunity for us to get your feedback on that process. And then we would move to, assuming the minister agrees, we would move to include the province of PEI in the regulated area. There would be a publication sometime in the spring, but we would hope in time for next season. So that would be sort of I guess a broad overview of what the process would look like on our side. And certainly.
What does it mean if it's?
Oh, sorry.
What does it mean if it's a regulated area? What does that mean if it's a regulated area?
Thanks, Kurt. Thanks for that question. I got it, and I think it means that we would regulate the movement of plants outside of PEI, moving out. Now we do know that there aren't that many plants that are moving outside of PEI. It would then allow for the free movement of plants between the other eastern provinces and PEI, so there would not be a requirement for certification. in that situation where PEI becomes part of that regulated area. And there we would likely reduce or stop surveillance really at that point because we already consider it established in that area. I don't know if that answers your question, Kurt, but certainly I can.
No, yes, yes. Well, could I just ask, Eastern Ontario is a regulated area?
Correct. Yeah, it's part of the regulated areas along with the other eastern provinces.
And then, though, but they were still the those plants were able to leave that area and come to the east, but they needed to be certified to do that. Is that right?
Correct. From Ontario, the ministerial order that created the regulated area for Ontario was put in place in 2022. I have my dates a little bit screwed up, but I think it's 2022. So the plants moving from Ontario to other provinces at that time would have had to have moved with the certification. Unfortunately, just the nature of this pest makes it really difficult because it's hard to detect. The larvae can travel in the within the plants themselves. Within the leaves, that they're hard to find, and certification is really a difficult process. And also there were plants that had moved before those regulatory controls were put in place. So there's no way for us to really know when those plants would have been introduced or that infestation would have been introduced into the area in PEI. Given that it's at a residence, it seems like that those plants have been in there for some time, so it would not have been a recent nursery purchase that would have been put into that residence. Yeah, that is the idea of having a regulated area, is that you would control and have requirements for moving, in this case, boxwood out of the regulated area. There would be requirements put in place to try and reduce the chances of spread. But for box tree moth, it is a difficult task. We do have a module that's in place for those that are looking to move plants. But if once PEI becomes part of the regulated area, that module is really more of a benefit for industry to help reduce or mitigate the movement between provinces. But it is a difficult pest to deal with. I don't know, Jamie, do you want to jump in on that your experience with that piece of it?
Sure. I mean, as growers, it's nursery growers who are growing boxwood. Obviously, they don't want to ship boxwood with box tree moth on it, and so they've adopted a pest module developed in partnership with CNLA and CFIA to manage their boxwood production in the nursery and produce plants that are box tree moth free. But as Javier mentioned, it was difficult. It is a difficult pest to manage, and the eggs and larvae can be very small and pass through inspection without being caught. So it's one of those pests we're just learning to live with at the moment, and we were hoping that in PEI you wouldn't have to for a little while, but with the fine this year, it looks like PEI residents will have to learn how to manage box tree moth as well, and landscape companies. So so what what basically the pest module was developed for was to help growers who were growing within the regulated area be able to ship to a non-regulated area, and that of course was needed to ship boxwood into PEI this past year, right? And once the regulated area is expanded to include PEI, then within that now within a regulated area, there's not a requirement to use a pest module to ship boxwood within those boundaries, and so that doesn't mean that there won't be controls in place at grower level to control box tree moth, but it just means they won't need to follow that certification program to be able to ship to garden centers in PEI once that regulated area and the publication that Javier talked about in the spring comes into force.
Okay, so Jamie, just to clarify.
Go ahead, Robin. I thought you started first, and then Kurt can follow.
So just to clarify, Jamie, so going forward, if someone in Atlantic Canada chooses to buy from whatever boxwood supplier or grower in Southern Ontario or Ontario in general, they can do that. They don't have to go with the usual regulated or growers that had the systems in place. So we can basically buy for anywhere we want now.
That is correct. Yep. Not right now in PEI, but probably next year that would be the case in PEI as well.
Okay, good to
know. Just curious. So if I'm a nursery, let's say, and I want to buy from Southwestern Ontario or wherever it's already established, it would be okay to take that plant through Nova Scotia and New Brunswick to get it to PEI without being regulated or inspected, certified?
That's correct. Yeah.
The other quick questions, I hate to kind of ask a lot of questions here, but back when gypsy moth or even Dutch elm disease, we had, Charlottetown was an area typically that it was found first. And then the rest, maybe there was a certain area that was considered infected and maybe a side wasn't. Or are we just going to paint PEI with the whole same brush on this one? Because we didn't before. Like if I had firewood that I wanted to move outside of Charlottetown, I had to inspect it for gypsy moth. Or if we thought it had Dutch elm disease and we wanted to move it somewhere, we had to inspect this before we moved it, wherever, maybe into Prince County from Kings County or something like that.
Yeah, it's all the same now. It's all the same now.
Are you asking, Kurt, if there would be areas in PEI that weren't regulated for box tree moth? I guess I think that's what you're saying. Or asking.
Yeah,
and that won't be that. Yeah, that won't be the case in this instance. I don't think Javier, will it? Oh, I should do that with you, I suppose.
No, I mean, certainly it would be difficult for us to set up a regulated area, let's say around Charlottetown, and control the spread there. This pest has a flight distance of 10 kilometers, so it's a difficult one to restrict movement for, and so it would be difficult for us to have a regulated area just for Charlottetown, and then prevent the spread to other parts of PEI. We're just not resourced for that, I guess, is one piece, but it also is related to the biology of the pest as well. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but that's why we wouldn't move to regulate a portion of PEI. It would make more sense to include all of PEI as within a regulated area.
Well, thank you very much.
It should be noted too, Jamie, that not all of Canada is regulated. And, the intentions is to get back into the US market. So, Ontario growers aren't, doing less to grow these boxwood. If in fact, they're probably doing more because, the biggest market is the US. So for people thinking that if they're buying from a grower, that we're in a regulated area and they're not trying to do due diligence, that's not it. That's not the case. If anything, they still want to continue with best practices and growing, and hope the opportunity comes that Canada can then Ontario sell into the US market, which BC is right now, having that available for Ontario growers, right? Did I explain that well enough?
You certainly did, Stuart. That's right. The regulated area in Canada is Ontario East, so any province west of Ontario is not regulated, and that's based on the fact that in CFIA and industry have been doing surveillance in British Columbia for since this began, but officially for 4 or 5 years. So and box tree moth has not been discovered in the West, so it's not included in the regulated area. But that surveillance continues in British Columbia, and yeah, as Stuart mentioned, the market in the U.S. is a big one for growers of boxwood, and thankfully the BC growers can now ship into the U.S. again based on that pest-free status. But Ontario growers and Quebec growers still have a little ways to go in terms of being able to be allowed into the U.S. market. And the only way they will be allowed in, from what we can tell, is that they will need to continue following the pest module that they have in place now. So growers who are interested in the U.S. market are continuing the use of that program and maintaining it as if it were needed to ship.
Yeah, and I would add that that we're hoping that the U.S.'s experience, the experience in the U.S. with the compliance agreements that they have now in place will permit them to gain a bit more confidence in sort of that systems-based approach. That the module, the box tree moth module is how it's structured, and so after next year, we're hoping that we can talk to APHIS about our U.S. colleagues about loosening some of the restrictions they have for importing boxwood into the U.S. But they will need time to get comfortable with their own compliance agreement, which again is like a pest module. And so having Canadian growers follow a similar or have a module in place is part of that system that we hope the U.S. will recognize in the future, and then allow the resumption of boxwood exports to the U.S. So.
Great. Are there any other questions? We're a little bit past our half hour, but I'm willing to go longer if anyone has any other questions.
I had a question on, so there any commercial pesticide that is usable on this? Like, I mean, we talk about BTK, but is there anything like that, that could be a little more potent? I know Ontario you said they've been working on it, but they haven't had a lot of success in getting something approved.
Yeah, we can
Right.
bring back
So,
let's bring back diazinon. That'll work good.
yeah. Delta Guard is a registered product for control of box tree moth in Canada. It is
Yeah.
registered by the PMRA, and we're currently submitting an application for acetyloprin for box tree moth, and hope to have that in place in the spring. The BTK products, of course, are all. Our BTK is registered, but they're and Difel is the commercial grade, I guess.
It
That
should
is
be,
also registered.
yeah, it should be noted that if that acetyloprin gets it approved at a high rate, it has a long shelf or a long life in the plant, like 4 to 6 month, like for a season.
Yeah.
At least in the turf label, it does. So I assume it would be the same as ornamental.
Yeah, it does have systemic activity or translaminar activity anyway in plants, so it does have some residual in the plant, which is why we've been looking after getting acetyloprin registered.
That's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate all the information and the CFIA on this today.
Yeah, you're welcome. And if, like I said, Jan, I can share all the information we have on control, because now it becomes an issue for landscape contractors and homeowners in terms of managing the pest when they do see larvae starting to feed.
Great. Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll put this link from our websites, if that's all right with you guys in the CFIA. We'll put it on our YouTube channel. Do you want me to keep it private, or is it okay to keep it public?
Sure, actually. I think I don't think there's anything we've shared here that is not available for others to hear. So
Just wanted confirmation. Thank you.
And please don't hesitate to reach out to me, Jan, or anyone on the call if you have any further questions, or anybody else from PEI has questions that they'd like to have answered.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Jamie. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome, and thanks everyone for attending.
Thank you.
thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Sam.